I'm a frequent reader, but first-time poster. I'm a 26-year-old female living in a big city, and I work every day even during the pandemic and take public transportation to work. So I've dealt with my fair share of men aggressively trying to talk to me, or even sometimes just looking for a fight. I put a deposit down on my own apartment. Finally, so I was across the city dropping my deposit off. It started pouring, so instead of making the arduous journey home on the bus, which was one transfer and lots of walking, and I didn't have a raincoat, I decided to call a Lyft. My driver gets there, pulls up, and is motioning for me to get in. I see he's not wearing a mask, so when he rolls down the window, I say, "Oh yeah, I'm just waiting to get in so you can put your mask on." He said, "What the fuck? Looks like it's in my hand." I was so taken aback and I just said, "Oh, I know, I'm just waiting for both of us." He hesitated a second, then gave me a look so angry I don't even know if I've ever experienced anything like that from a stranger. It's pure anger, like if I was in front of him, he would have killed me. I swear it was that intense. He then said, "Do you think I fucking need you to tell me to put it on?" I said, "No, I'm just waiting." He gave me the look again and sped off, not before calling me a fucking cunt. Of course, I reported him to Lyft, but the best part of this story is the strangers that backed me up. One woman has said to me, "I saw what was going on, that was fucked up. I had your back." And then the two older men who waited with me while I cried and waited for my next ride, providing words of comfort. Not everyone is bad, but the shitty ones are truly shit. My mom brought up an interesting point as well, that since I probably got this guy fired, he's gonna have even more of that violent rage. And does he have my name and address? Not sure if he could get it back from Lyft.
When I was 6 or 7, I had an awesome best friend who lived in the apartment complex right across from me. She and I used to go roving around on adventures, helping the older folks in the complex get around, etc. It was the 90s and a small town, so our hard-working single moms didn't worry too much if we got off the bus before they got off of work. They told us to always stick together, don't talk to strangers, stay close to our section of the complex, and to never go to the playground at the top of the hill by ourselves. Naturally, being 6 to 7 and 8 to 9, we were pretty obedient until one day when they were way later than usual. We were bored out of our tiny noggins and thought it would be a brilliant idea to hike to the massive hill and go play on the playground. So up we went, and all was well, at least for a few minutes. My spidey senses started tingling, and when I turned around, there was a man standing there. He didn't look creepy or anything, just a normal younger dude wearing a burgundy sweater and khakis. I looked around to see if he had brought his kids or something, but didn't see any. I grabbed the swing I had been pushing my friend on and made it stop, whispering to her that there was a man behind us. She looked behind us and stood up quickly.
"It's okay. You two can keep playing,"
he said in a very soft, quiet voice. My friend spoke up.
"Nah, we were just leaving anyways."
She grabbed my hand and we began to walk away.
"If you want, I have a jungle gym across my apartment. We can go play there,"
he said, moving closer to us. We backed away, still hand in hand, and both of our red flag sensors were going wild.
"I like watching you two play. You're very pretty,"
He continued moving in longer strides and that's when we began to book it. Taking off down the hill at breakneck kid speed, we looked behind us to see him chasing us, and we both started screaming. A little more than halfway down the hill, we saw both of our moms standing by their cars, talking and smoking, and when they heard us, they immediately started sprinting to us. Apparently, the man realized who they were, and he started taking off across the vast parking lot, back to his apartment. Our moms scolded us something fierce, and explained to us that what had happened was the exact reason we were to never go that far from our neighbors, ever again.
My hubby and I moved into this house 1.5 years ago, and it all started just after lockdown. The neighbors on one side have a couple on the bottom half, they're in their 40s, and a single man on the top half. It's all one big house, but they're pretty separate in their living arrangements. We have had drinks with the downstairs neighbors a couple of times, and the first time they introduced us to the upstairs guy, Trev, and told us after he left that he had some brain damage from falling off scaffolding a few years ago. I'm pretty much the most paranoid person in the world, but every time I've thought there was danger, I've been proven right almost straight away. So, hubby doesn't bitch and takes me seriously. He even jokes that I've got a spidey sense for natural disasters. So I inquire a bit further. The lady of the house tells me very occasionally he'll have a psychotic break and be violent, but that's very rare, and once a while he shaves the cats. Cue a blank stare. She just laughed and said he's harmless, and she's got some knitted jumpers for the cats in case he does it again. So, I work in construction, and due to you-know-what, I've been on and off work like a yo-yo, but I've had a few solid weeks off while hubby went to work. Trev noticed this, and came over one day to make sure that I'm okay on my own. I said, "Yes, I'm fine, and my bloke will be home any minute, thank you." A few days later, I open the door, which has a window so you can see out, and throw the welcome mat out so I can beat it later. When I do this, however, he's standing there and halfway through saying something, like he was chatting away well before I opened my door. Then he says, "Well, are you?" And I obviously ask what to which he says, "Coming over for a smoke," and holds a J out to me. I told him, "Sorry mate, no, I get drug tested for work." And I thought that would be it. He just stared at me and said, "You're alone though, I know you are." And I'd had enough. Told him yup, but I've got plenty of weapons so I'm not worried. I turned and went back inside. Maybe it was petty of me, but I went back out an hour or so later and sharpened all of my machetes and knives, which I collect. There's a few dozen so far, and I made sure to do it on the front step where I normally smoke because I knew by then he was watching me. Other things included my tampons being taken from the windowsill in the toilet, only when the window is open, and there's no chance they fall because under that window is just flat concrete for ages, and you'd see them. My bins being sorted through, my mail being put on the step instead of left in the mailbox, constantly seeing him hide and watch me while I'm cooking, or doing dishes, or smoking outside. I spoke to the downstairs couple once, and the woman told me not to be so hard on him. He's got brain damage. I told her, speak to him. Tell him not to come over the property line ever again, or I will deal with it, with the law or a more permanent way. I will deal with it, so tell him. I haven't had him over since, but he still watches, and I still practice with my blades. I'm 5'3" to his 6'2". No, I don't care what's wrong with him. I'll protect me just fine. Hubby knows better and is staying out of the way while still keeping an eye on things. He's there if I need, but knows I'll sort out my own problems just like last time. So, creepy dude next door, let's never, ever meet again. Okay, so this just happened last night. I'm a 19-year-old female and I work as a maintenance worker at Walmart, and I work the night shift, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I have to change all the outside parking lot trash, and I usually do that at the beginning of my shift where there's still traffic outside from the customers and day crew leaving. Last night though was different, and I didn't get outside until 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. There's absolutely nobody that I can see outside. I start collecting the trash, and when I get to the one furthest from the store, a white van I hadn't noticed before turns its high beams on, pointing straight at me. It's about 20 feet away and technically not in the actual Walmart parking lot. This doesn't bother me too bad and I keep going. Then I hear a door open and I look up to see a person get out of the passenger side door and get into the sliding back door of the van. This is where I start feeling uncomfortable. Next, the van turns on its hazard lights, and I froze up slightly at this point and just stared for a few minutes. Then the hazards turn off, and whoever is in the driver's seat starts flashing a flashlight at me as if trying to get my attention. I was already clearing, staring straight at the van, and I was frozen until the light stopped flashing. Then I just got the rest of the trash and got the fuck out of there. I told my manager and even pointed out the van to him, but he said he can't do anything because they aren't in our parking lot. I have work again tonight, and I've decided to call the cops if it happens again. Whatever those people in that van were up to, it couldn't be good.
One night, my boyfriend and I were watching a movie in the living room, and there was a knock on the door. I'm 8 months pregnant, and we were around 27 at the time. My kids, 5 and 7, are sleeping down the hall. My boyfriend peeked out the window, and we see it's Roger. We had met Roger a few months before. We helped him with some flooring in his kitchen, and chatted outside a couple times. He's in his 50s or 60s. Very nice, and lives alone. Zero bad vibes. He mentioned he is a dealer and has pounds of weed in his car or whatever. Okay, Roger, you do you. Back to the story. We open the door. It's late and dark, and at this point, I'm looking at Roger like he's the nicest little old man. As soon as the door is open, he's inside. I can tell right away something isn't right with him. The house layout includes the living room and the front door leading into the kitchen with a hallway next to the kitchen table. It's pretty small. Before he sits down in the chair right beside the hallway entrance, I can see a fucking huge ass hunting knife and a baseball bat tucked in his pants under his sweatshirt. So now him and my boyfriend are sitting at the table, and my boyfriend has no idea. I didn't know what to do. My boyfriend sits across from him and asks him if he's okay or if he needs any help. He starts getting very agitated, yelling that
The people at my house are not happy with you.
and yelling about the flooring we had helped him with in the summer. I still don't know what the hell was going on, but he seemed to think that the flooring wasn't done, and if my boyfriend didn't go right now with him to fix it, the people at his house would be angry. He brought my kids up and we got in an argument. I told him they were sleeping and he needed to leave now, and my boyfriend wasn't going anywhere. My boyfriend sees things getting intense and still doesn't know about the weapons. He jumps up and immediately tries to defuse the situation by saying he will go with him. The plan is to get Roger out the door and lock it behind him. They get to the door and open it. My boyfriend turns to me, and when he does, Roger pushes him surprisingly hard, and he stumbles into the doorway, where Roger immediately slams it, and I'm just there alone. I hear yelling as I call 911, and the dude tells me to go outside. I'm like, guy, he has a giant knife, and I'm inept on a good day. I just remember at the time I was shocked. He wanted me to wander outside, but I can see why now. So I go out on my deck, and they are fucking gone. Like, it's dead quiet, and it hasn't even been a minute. So I just stand inside, completely horrified and useless. Time goes by, and suddenly there is a crazy pounding on the door, and thankfully it's my boyfriend. I open it, and he comes flying in with his eyes bugging out, and he has a mystery axe. The 911 guy and I were like, what the hell is going on right now? Apparently, as soon as they got to the road, Roger pulled the knife out, and the yelling was him threatening to
Cut your fucking head off for the people in my house.
My boyfriend instantly booked shit out of there and ran through the yards to get back home, grabbing someone's axe along the way. Our CMP came. We had a court date, but we just sat outside the courtroom until they told us it was over. Roger was there in an oversized suit. He lived in the same cul-de-sac as us, and my kids wait for the bus where he walks by. No one ever told us if he was arrested or when he was let out the next day, and we definitely moved.
This happened like 10 years ago when I was in my first year of university. Apologies, this is gonna be a long one. A week or two before classes started, I moved into student accommodation. It was shitty, a huge block of apartments built in the 60s in the center of town. I was keen to make friends, as everyone was, and made sure to get to know all the people in my student halls. It was during this time that I met Mike and John, two friends who had known each other before university started. Both were pretty geeky and cool guys, I thought, and were easy to get along with. I also met a girl, let's call her Erica, and together with Mike and John, we made a little friendship group. We'd hang out often and go clubbing and have dinners in our shitty kitchen, and it was nice. Eventually, it became clear that John and Mike had crushes on me, which was unreciprocated, and I started to feel a little uncomfortable hanging out with them so much. I had gotten into classes and had met some fun people on my course. I also grew up in the city, that I went to university, so it was easy to fall back into my old friendship group, and I'd often end up staying in my parents' home. And I also started dating my ex-boyfriend again. Basically, I was in our student accommodation less and less, and didn't really have time to hang out with John and Mike. Around that time, things got weird. It started with a random Facebook account adding me and hurling abuse at me. To be honest, Facebook trolls were common back then, so I didn't really care. I just got weirded out when they started adding some of my family members on Facebook, and I asked them to stop. I mostly ignored the account at first, as nothing too horrific came from it. I did, however, have some suspicions that it was either John or Mike due to some things that they had said, but again, I didn't care enough to make anything out of it. Then one day, when I was walking back into the student accommodation, I heard someone shouting, "Slut," from the building. The first time I honestly thought it was just drunken students messing about with each other. I didn't think for a second that it would be directed at me. Another day, again as I'm walking towards my accommodation, I hear male voices shouting, "Hey slut! Slut!" And now I'm weirded out because no one else is around. The next time I'm walking towards my building, I once again hear the "Slut! Slut!" and I whip my head towards the windows of the building, just in time to see Mike and John ducking down from the windows. I yell back that they're fucking idiots and they can go fuck themselves, and I carry on with my day. From then on, I point blank refuse to speak to them, not even a hello in passing. A month later, I got to a nightclub with Erica, and we ended up bumping into Mike and John. They apologized profusely, and I am always way too nice when I'm drunk, so I forgave them. We hung out for the rest of the night, with Mike in particular getting progressively drunker and weirder. And so, we decided to call it a night and head back towards our accommodation. I'd ask Erica to come to my room after for a snack, so we both go off at my floor, which is the 10th floor. When Mike decides he wants to come with us, at this point, he had been getting weird for too long, so we stand on the landing of my floor. I'm not about to let him into my room or my floor's kitchen, and I try to stand my ground and tell him that we want to call it a night. He is completely fixated on me at this point, not Erica, and he keeps trying to hug me, while I'm telling him to please leave and go to bed, as he's acting like a drunk idiot. While this conversation is happening, it's starting to feel darker and weirder, and my heart's starting to beat fast. I've completely sobered up at this point, and I just want him to go away. All of a sudden, I hear the door to the stairs open, and Erica is running up the stairs. Not walking, running. We both obviously felt that this was getting dangerous, but I could not believe that she would abandon me like that. I never ever forgave her for that. Anyway, as if I wasn't terrified already, now that I'm alone with Mike, my adrenaline is going crazy. For reference, he's easily 6'4" and quite overweight, whilst I'm 5'3", was at that time 110 pounds. I had grown up in a roughish area, so I always felt like I had a lot of street smarts, and I could handle myself, and I did well on occasion. But man, I have never felt so vulnerable, and I've been in some shitty situations. He keeps asking me to let him in my room, and I just keep looking at him straight in the eyes and saying, "No, no, no, no." And all this time, he's trying to pull me in for a hug and put his arm around my waist and kiss my face, and I'm just ducking and diving under his arms, pushing him away or just backing away from him. I felt like a cornered animal. This went on for like 20 minutes, and I put on my best voice of authority and say firmly, "You are not coming to my room, and this is the last time I'm telling you. I'm getting pissed off now. You need to go to your own room and go to bed." He finally says okay, and I try to confidently walk towards my room so he can't see how scared I am. But I felt like he saw my fear, and he'd know that I was powerless, and he'd just try to force me. The way the floor plan is, there is a lobby, and then a group of rooms on either side. There is an initial set of unlocked doors that you have to walk through, then a short hallway to another door that locks, but we barely ever lock it. And then another hall with our kitchen and all of our apartment doors, which we always locked. I walk slowly to unlock doors, open them, and then, when I know he can't see me, I run for my life to the locked door. My whole body is shaking at this point, and I go through the second door, and I quickly lock it behind me. The minute the lock clicks, I hear the initial set of doors slamming open and the boom of Mike's footsteps running down the hall and trying to open the door that I just locked. I've just taken my hand off the lock when he starts shaking the doorknob and slamming on the door to the point that I think he's going to break it down. I run to my apartment and lock my apartment door. At this point, I just want someone to save me. I'm freaking out, so I call my boyfriend. My toxic as fuck boyfriend thinks I'm exaggerating and that I probably led this guy on. And I promise all of you, I did not. I was never a flirty type of person, and Mike had no reason to think that I ever liked him like that. I'm trying to convince him to come and get me because I'm scared, but he refuses. All the while, I can still hear Mike banging on the door. We speak for 15 minutes and hang up. When we hang up, I see that I have around 30 to 40 missed calls, all from Mike. He'd also left several voicemails, all of them saying the same crap. It was all him speaking in this weird high-pitched voice. Please, Jaffa Cakes, please, I just want to watch you sleep. Please, Jaffa Cakes, I promise I won't do anything. I just want to cuddle with you. Please, I just want to lie in the bed with you, please. This went on and on. It grossed me out so much. I just want to sleep, but I felt so unsafe. And I could still hear him trying to open the door to the hallway. Eventually, the banging subsides and I start feeling safer. About 10 minutes later, the fire alarms go off, and I could not believe how unlucky I was. We have to evacuate the building. I'm contemplating just staying in my room because I'm terrified Mike is still on my floor. But I hear the people on either side of my room opening their doors, and I think it's just safer to be with people at this point. We go downstairs and outside, and I spot Mike scouring the crowd, obviously looking for me, glassy-eyed and crazy looking. And I just try to make myself as small as possible and stay hidden amongst the crowd. Firemen end up coming, and after 20 minutes, they shout for everyone from floor 10 to come forward. Out of 18 floors? I don't know why, but I thought Mike had put them up to it so he could find me, which is obviously silly. But I was hesitant to expose myself from my hiding place and go over to the firemen. Once I do, firemen start asking us which one of us set off the fire alarm because it came from the floor 10. I don't know why, but it took a while to register for me that Mike had set off the fire alarm on my floor when he realized that I wouldn't open the door to try and flush me out. What a psycho! I'm still trying to keep a mental note of where he is in case he does anything, and I see him sitting on the floor, crying, with John consoling him. I think John spoke some sense into him because I didn't hear from him again that day. I ended up leaving the university a month or so later. Aside from that experience and being seriously disappointed by all my new friends, I didn't particularly like my course either. Mike kept trying to text and call me for the years afterwards, but I assume when he's drunk because it was always late at night, and his little troll account kept trying to find out where I'd gone and what I was up to. I hope he got help in the end, or at least learned how to handle his drink. So, Mike, let's not meet again. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I would also like to thank my following patrons: Ralph, Maskino, Fire05, Gabrol, Jake, Eskimono, Matt's Chats, and Silver Threads. Thank you very, very much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to support the channel further, you can be a patron too. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.